This is Half Serious, where we dig into the things that keep us going. Habits, hobbies, hell, even bad ideas, and the hard crap that nearly breaks us. Because life doesn't pull punches, and somewhere between the chaos and the craft, the dichotomy of life teaches us a lesson. We laugh, we curse, and we keep freaking going. So pour a drink or start your marathon, and let's get into it. In this episode, we talked to Cindy. She struggled with infertility for damn near a decade. Her story does end with birthing twin girls, but it didn't come without its own hardships and hard choices. You'll get to know a gambit of actions that she took that helped her reach her goal. Not saying this will be the end goal for everybody, but I know anybody in this situation would want to exhaust every option that they have. She also has a good followership on social media in which she describes her whole journey from start to finish. And we'll give those links and stuff towards the end. We talk about anatomy and about how to have a baby. So if that sort of stuff, freaks you out more than the other episodes where we talk about suicide and death, maybe you want to skip on to a different one. But there's an episode for everybody, and this one is for those that are struggling with infertility, because there are a lot of people out there that do. So, you ready to dive into it?
Ready.
All right, sorry. I do look like a little bit like a scrub, but I just, I ran and then I hurried up and changed out, and I got to cut my hair off in a minute. So this is the braid to cut it off later.
I get it.
I don't like to pay to cut my hair. I'm like, I have a pair of scissors. I can chop it off. It's fine. All right, we'll take two. Yeah, you think you're good? Is it stable?
Yeah, it is.
The camera, not you.
I'm definitely not. Yeah.
Okay. All right, cool. So this is, let's see. We'll go back to, we'll hit on your law enforcement again, because I kind of wanted to let people know that is your background. Not that this is a law enforcement podcast, but just because I think that some of our listeners would find it interesting because they can relate in that way if some of them are law enforcement. So
yeah,
what'd you do when you first got out into the career of law enforcement? What was kind of your quick path of that? Because you had a bunch of different hats you wore, I think.
Yeah. So I started out as a reserve trooper because they weren't hiring at the time in the state of Alabama, believe it or not. And then they kept canceling their patrol school due to funding. Imagine that, that the state doesn't have funding. I know, say it ain't so. And then Mississippi announced they were hiring, and I was already hired by Alabama at the time. And then last minute, they jerked the funding out from under the academy. So I applied in Mississippi, went through the academy, and worked as a state trooper in Mississippi. Loved every minute of it. And that's how you and I met, which is really cool. And then I wasn't making enough money. Imagine the state not paying their people.
I still can't believe they don't pay cops very much. Or you're lying. There's no way.
I know. Yeah, I know. So I was making $38,000 starting out. I'm in the academy. I made a stipend fund, which was like $500 a month. Barely. I mean, it wasn't enough to survive on. Had to have help.
Yeah, you can't pay rent on that. That's
no. It was insane. And then I saw a carrot dangling in front of my face. Carrot as in Secret Service. So I served as a special agent with Secret Service. Went through another 30-week academy, and the Highway Patrol Academy was 23 weeks, and then the United States Secret Service Agent Academy is 30 weeks. So 12 weeks at FLETC, and then 18 weeks in Lanham, Maryland. And then you do 2 weeks at the White House, and that's after you're already an agent to help out Uniform Division, and then you're at your field office. My field office was New Orleans, and I can't say what I do now, other than I have a career.
I am employed.
Yes, I've had a professional career now for going on, I guess, 18 years.
Nice. So what kind of brought you in this, or how long did you serve in Secret Service?
I served in Secret Service for 2 years.
Did you like it, or is it not what you expected? So you left out early, just kind of wanted, because I know you have to move a lot in it, if I remember correctly.
You do have to move a lot. The move was literally what made me influenced my decision on transitioning to what I do now, which is what I can't say. It was just the constant travel. I was never home. And then I was going to be moving to DC for a minimum of 6 years. They told me when I was hired that I could work a former president. So I was going to work Bush in Texas because I thought that's still close to family. And when you're on PPD, which is the president's detail, or VPD, it ages you tremendously. And I just really didn't want to move to DC for a minimum of 6 years.
Oof,
and so once I was there,
town.
Yeah, once I was there, they changed the rules. The federal government changed the rules and said
Same as
all
so.
phase 2 yeah, said all phase 2 agents have to either do PPD, president's detail, or VPD for 6 years. So there was no working a former president as a phase 2 agent. So I
Mm.
looked at taking another position.
So out of all those, which was your favorite? Not to pull favorites, but I'm going to ask, what was your favorite, and which one was the most difficult? Do you feel like you had to earn?
By far, state trooper. I still love it to this day, and I would still be working as a state trooper in Mississippi because the brotherhood, the sisterhood that I experienced there is unlike no. I mean, I can't put words on it, and my heart is still there. In fact, Brad and I even looked at one time us both serving as state troopers in Mississippi.
What? No, I can't see
Yes.
him as a state trooper. Don't put that on him.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. And just the mere fact that because the pay was at this point, I think it's around 55,000 or something. So we were thinking that if both of us,
Is he making old man noises back there? Is that what he's doing? Oh my
he
god.
he's taking his master's class and he does that all the time. And there's no doorway there, so I can't separate it.
Hey,
So,
I know those noises. All my friends are old now, so I filter it out just like baby noises. So I don't care.
yes. Yeah. So we the pay was like 50 to 55,000 and we were thinking, well, both of us together would make what one of us makes right now.
Yeah.
And then the more we looked into it, the more we were like, no. I mean, as much as I miss it and my heart's still there in a big way,
Mm-hmm.
change is going to happen. And I made the decisions I made to, better myself. And that's what I've done financially.
Well, I have to ask, even though, we have a whole other topic of conversation to cover. But so I obviously was a city cop through and through. I loved it. There's a few, like, it took me a little bit to get to know some state troopers because that exterior, it's like, there's that, like, weird sibling rivalry that goes on between troopers
Yeah.
and city cops. I don't even know how to explain it. But
There is.
what do you think the difference is between the two?
In Alabama, I think it's different. And I mean, I'm going to be honest because Brad and I've had in-depth conversations about this.
Mm-hmm.
And so in Mississippi, when you go through the academy, it's like ingrained in you. So imagine 23 weeks of something being ingrained in you. You're the cream of the crop. You're the best of the best. Like in Mississippi, it's different here, but in Mississippi, you have to go through the whatever local agency would have to go through 10 weeks. And we watched 2 basic classes graduate, and we're still at the academy both
wow.
times. And so we're standing on the roof at attention and then getting a smoke session after. We had to do, so the academy class that graduated, that was the basic class, was like academy class 590 something. I don't remember exactly, but we had to do that many side shuttle hops, jumping jacks after they graduated. And then we had to hold our water bottle out, like with one arm to where, your arm feels like it's going to fall off. So I think it goes to the training, honestly. You hear something enough times, you start in a way believing that, okay, yes, I did go through more training. I do have an extensive training. But you take an agency like for example, y'all are squared away. You have a whole SWAT team and stuff like that. And in Mississippi, they look to the Highway Patrol for their SWAT team, for their everything, for wrecks, for reconstruction. I mean, like, we're the experts in that field. You're talking about Mississippi, so there's a difference in that. And I think it goes back to that, but in Alabama, I don't see it as much. I mean, granted, is there I'm a state trooper, I work for 8, but to work for 8, like, to me, that's the cream of the crop. I mean, it's that upper echelon.
Whoa.
No,
You start feeding those egos. No, just kidding.
No, but I mean, I'm serious. Like, I've been around it enough, obviously now,
Yeah.
to know that the training that y'all go through and how you conduct yourselves, are there bad troopers, bad officers that make bad decisions? Yes, all day, every day. We had them. Y'all have them. Every agency has them. Sometimes they don't. They end up getting through the process, as in the academy, and they don't get weeded out for whatever reason. And then we end up, and it changes the image of law enforcement as a whole to the public. And that's sad when that happens. But I do think a lot of what your main question is goes back to the training that happens in the actual academy, because they tell you these things, and then you get out there and you believe it.
Yeah, that's a good point. I guess it is kind of where you're coming from in the mindset that they give you when you get out there. Because I'd say with the city department that I was in, the training was a huge aspect of it, but also it was, hey, you're going to train this 1,000 times, but you're never going to be perfect at it. So just be used to being crappy and continually thriving to be better. Like
Yeah.
you're always going to have to be better. So kind of check some egos in the middle of it. But no, I got nothing to say about, bad to say about the training with our department. But I always like to
Yeah.
talk to a trooper about that rivalry because it's always there. It's like a weird, I don't know how to even put
Unspoken.
it.
Yeah, it is. It really is. I mean, we had it there. And one thing that I did, I made it a point to go break bread, have lunch with the local, like, it was just a huge part of me. And I would go sit at the jail and talk to the deputies. I built a great relationship because at the end of the day, they are my backup, not a state trooper. A state trooper might be 2 or
Yeah.
3 counties away, 4 hours away. I don't know. It depends on how many troopers we have 10-8 on duty that day. And so I would go break bread, and they all knew me by my first name. They knew my personality. They knew everything about me. How many troopers do you have that relationship with? Probably not that many.
Yeah. Yeah, you're probably one of like 3 that I knew their names at that time. I'm like, I don't know who this dude is. I don't know if I can trust him.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
you, I knew.
absolutely. Yeah,
So,
I made it a point, and I went around, even when I moved here, I made it a point to go around and introduce myself at
hmm
Madison County, everywhere, Jackson County. I mean, like all these places, just so I could build that relationship, that rapport, because it makes a huge difference if you do have that relationship,
hmm
that rapport with the people surrounding you, so they know the type of person you are. If the stuff hits the fan, you want to be able to take care of business and know that that person understands your work ethic.
yeah, 100%. Because, and again, I don't mean to go off on this tangent, but if Joe Blow asks for help and I don't know who it is, but then I hear you on the radio, then I know there's a vast difference in response because I know the investment I'm
Yeah,
going to have in your call compared to somebody that I don't know. And not that we don't back up people we don't know, but we always know those people that scream for help that don't really need it, that are just kind of like, hey,
right?
and then
Yeah.
those that don't need it that wait till the last minute to ask for it. So I
Yeah,
know,
I probably
about
am
your
the
work
one that
ethic.
waits till last minute. I mean, I've never called for backup ever.
So you were in the troopers for how many years or how long?
7 years total.
Wow. Yeah, that's a while. And then when you got out, or did so kind of go to the topic at hand then. Did you suffer some infertility issues while you're a trooper, or did you end up getting out, or what was the
More after being a trooper, that believe it or not, for before Brad and the
Mhm.
trooper days, I even looked at, my mom would kill me if I said this, but I mean, I've been very
Oh, those are
vocal
the
about
best
this.
kind of topics I like. Somebody will kill me if I say it.
I looked at just like buying sperm and getting pregnant that way with donor sperm through an IUI or at home insemination.
Mhm.
And I was told, "Oh, don't do that. Like you can't do it by yourself." Oh, I definitely could have done it by myself 110% without a
Yeah.
doubt. I know that, but I let someone else's mentality change. And so the way that I went about fertility, like this time, people like thought bad of me, and I can't believe you're going about getting pregnant this way, yada, yada. But I didn't care, because I said, your given has to be busted. And after becoming a trooper and doing all the things I've done in my life, I said, I really don't care what other people think about me. They can think whatever they want. Everybody was my mom was so worried about what people would think about me being a single parent. And I'm
Mhm.
like, I really don't care what they think about me, but I let that nugget of information affect the trajectory of, and I feel like I would have gotten pregnant very quickly then because I was younger, my eggs were a lot younger. Because whenever you try to get pregnant at an older age, it takes a lot longer to ovulate. And I think that that affected me in a big way. So that part was very, discouraging that I didn't go about it way back when.
So how did those hardships in infertility and loss and all that stuff affect you as a woman? And I say as a woman because I think a lot of people bank on reproducing is that is the basis of women. Now, we all have different political views, religious views, and all that other good stuff. And you and I do too. And that's why I like talking to you, because we respect each other's opinion on stuff.
Right.
But it's just, did that affect you in that way? Because I know when I had some issues, it affected me a little. I was like, oh, what am I? Like, that is the thing that I'm supposed to be able to do, and it took me longer than I thought it would. So it affected me when I didn't think that it would, because I know women are more than that, obviously.
Yeah.
It just still got me. Did it get you, or is there some moment where it kind of affected you more than you thought it would?
Yeah. I mean, it's a huge part. Like when I was younger, all I wanted to do was be a state trooper and a mom. I mean, those are like, obviously a wife too, but I wanted to be a mom. And so whenever you feel like the rug is ripped out from under you and you're being told you have unexplained infertility, it's something that is like, what's so different about me that Susie Q down the street is fertile myrtle and can get knocked up just by looking at her husband. And here I am doing everything right and can't. And that's the hardest thing, is accepting that others are so much more fertile than you, and they're not even trying. I'm sitting here staring at negative pregnancy test or a positive test that went negative, and that's not fair. And so it was hard. I don't know if that is, so far as one part of the journey was harder than the other. When you first start trying, it's exciting. You're like, oh, we're going to, just get pregnant in 3 months or so. And then 6 months goes by, a year goes by. And so I think the longer period of time that it drags on, the harder it gets.
Yeah, and I think especially in our previous lines of work, where you see these prostitutes that are literally walking the street that we know have done illicit narcotics and all this other stuff, and they're just having babies, and you're like, how? What is this?
Yeah. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, I've never done drugs. I, live this super like organically clean, healthy life and work out and do all the right things. And then it's like, nope, can't get pregnant.
So what personal practices, mindsets, rituals, whatever, you helped kind of soothe yourself, got you through all of the different emotional weight of either loss or, having to continually try to get pregnant and the infertility issues and that sort of thing. So what helped you cope, basically?
I think the biggest thing is it's a combination. One, working out, because I would bury my mind in working out. Sometimes I bury my mind in work. I mean, let's just be real. I think we've all been guilty of that because it's a coping mechanism. Also, prayer. I prayed a lot about just helping me find peace in this and not losing the faith that I was eventually going to get pregnant. And then the next thing, always having a plan to move forward. Like, if this natural cycle fails, then I'm going to move forward with an IUI. If this IUI fails, I'm going to move forward with IVF. And if this IVF fails, this is the next plan. So I had all these plans to kind of help me move forward, move forward and cope with my fertility journey. And I think that's what really got me through it.
Do you think that I think that you were a headstrong person before you were a trooper or Secret Service and all that other stuff, but do you think that helped prepare you?
So I think that to be in law enforcement as a state trooper, or for example, you to work for, like you did, worked for PD, I think it takes a special mindset, especially for a female. I'm not saying it doesn't for a male too. I think it does. But for a female, it really does, because, you're a female in a man's world. And so our mentality is obviously different than just the general public. And so I think that helped push me forward of, I'm not giving up. Like, you tell me that I can't do something. Okay, so unexplained infertility is like, in a way, being told, oh, you can't get pregnant. Or we don't know why you're getting pregnant and not holding the pregnancy. And so having that background, it's just in my DNA, just like it's in your DNA too. It's something that God just gave us. It's something that I believe that it's something that I believe.
She's only saying this because she knows I'm agnostic at best, so she's trying to be respectful. See, that's how you have good conversations.
Yes,
respected.
It's for me. I believe that I'm trying to rephrase it. For
you
me,
can say it how you want to say it.
Oh, okay,
it's fine.
Okay. Yeah. I believe that it's just in your DNA. If it's in your DNA, then you have that drive in you to keep going and to keep looking for answers. And some
Mm-hmm.
people don't. I mean, I see it like when I go to, for example, I took my son to Subway and the lady checking us out, she's like, well, I have unexplained infertility. And I said, oh, well, you know that you can get answers through this reproductive immunologist. And I started kind of telling her the spill. And she's like, yeah. And, you could just tell she was just like, okay. And she said she had 7 years of unexplained infertility. And she's like, I really wanted a baby. And I'm like, well, you can change the trajectory of that by this.
Yeah.
And
You
you
think
could
she had just kind of shut off, like she had disassociated at that point, and just be like, oh, this is it. This is what it is.
maybe, or it's the way that people are wired. I mean, it could be that somebody was just shut off, or it could very well be that there is a difference in people in the DNA and the way that they're wired and being able to just push forward no matter what. And I think
Yeah.
that for me, it's in my DNA. And I said, I'm not giving up. I'm going to find out answers. And then once I found them out, I was the first, we tried one cycle with my answers and it didn't work. And I said, I've got to try one more with this other treatment that could possibly be the missing puzzle piece. Cause I always felt like there was a missing puzzle piece. And there was.
So, what was the final event that led to your pregnancy, your successful pregnancy that you
So
carried to term? Am
9
I
IVF
jumping too far?
transfers later. No,
Okay.
9 IVF transfers later.
9. And how
6
much are they?
IUIs.
They're pretty expensive, right? Or they're, if you don't mind
Yeah.
sharing, because I know there's
Yeah.
people listening that are interested in
Looking
this.
into it.
Yeah.
So, depending on the clinic, if you use a clinic like C&Y Infertility, it can range from around $5,000 per se. Or if you
Wow.
use a clinic like your normal IVF clinic, they range from anywhere from 8,000 to 15,000, even upwards of $20,000 for one cycle. That's insane.
That's crazy. I
Yeah.
can't. I mean, I'm sure it took a whole other level of part-time jobs, especially in, if you were a trooper at the time, to be able to support that. I mean, you had these goals, and then you also had to reach the goals of monetary, and then the goal of, successful pregnancy. So that's a different level of dedication and endurance.
Yeah, I worked so much overtime because I've now paid off all my IVF debt. Because
Just
you
in
got to
time to have
think,
the twins.
yeah, you got to think like that's a lot of, and I would try to pay it off on the front end, but at times I just couldn't. So the way
Yeah.
that, because I'm so disciplined, I do not recommend the way that I did it, but I am
Why?
extremely disciplined. What I did was, and I hope this is okay for me to say,
Sure.
I put it on a credit card and then I immediately, I have great credit, like 800 credit score. I immediately transferred it to a credit card with 0% interest for 36 months or whatever I could get. And then I would just pay, because I was paying no interest at this point. I'm not saying that's the way to do it, but it worked for
Yeah.
me and it allowed me to have 0% interest and pay it off. Because if you get a loan, you're still paying interest. And that was what literally allowed me to pay it off. Because if I'd have been paying on interest, whether that be a loan or even a credit card, because I know a lot of people put it on credit card. And I don't know if they do the balance transfer, but the balance transfer, because I was able to do 100% balance transfer and have nothing left over. And then I paid it off in a very short amount of time by working a lot of overtime.
That must have been rough.
Yes. Like I'm talking working like 15, 16-hour days to
Yeah,
pay it
that's a
off.
long day.
Yeah.
So what do you suggest to people that are looking into this? Do you think that they should put a price point? And because I don't know how you did it, like, hey, no, I'm going to spend this amount of money and these are the different ways that I'm going to go? Or do you think it should just be case by case going through it?
So it's hard to say. I would look at more affordable routes, such as IVF in Mexico, CNY infertility. I would not use your traditional IVF doctor, and I would find out answers first, like the answers as in from the reproductive immunologist, which are located in California. There's 5 in the U.S. I would find out answers from them because they're going to give you the answers. Your IVF doctor is not going to give you the answers. And even though it's going to cost you money to see a reproductive immunologist, it's still, at the end of the day, I'd rather pay a little bit extra on the front end than have to go through what I did, 9 IVF transfers, 6 or 7 IUIs. And I didn't find out answers till my 7th IVF treatment or IVF transfer. It ended in it failed. No, I had an early stage miscarriage, otherwise known as a chemical pregnancy. So that's when I found out answers. So my 8th transfer, I pretty much had answers.
Mhm.
And then my 9th transfer, we added in a PRP treatment along with the other answers that I had, Lovenox injections for my blood clotting and the 2 lit treatments that we did with Brad's white blood cells, and that was what my body needed. So my advice is see the reproductive immunologist and go look at CNY infertility or IVF in Mexico because that's going to save you. Because I'm here to tell you, it puts a lot of financial strain on you, like, emotionally. It did
Yeah.
me. And even your marriage, like, I see so many times where these couples in this fertility group, they're really talking about how their husband saying, "Oh, this is their last one that they're gonna go through because they just financially can't afford to go through another one," and it's putting a strain on their marriage.
Mhm. Yeah, I could see how that would affect it because it's an emotional topic where how do you put a cost on wanting to have a kid? Like, it's,
Yeah,
or wanting to birth a kid. Like, it's a
yeah,
hard thing to put a point on or put a cost on.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, some people say, "Oh, why didn't you just use a surrogate?" Well, I didn't want to. I'm glad
Mhm.
that you did, but that's not the route that I wanted to go. I wanted to carry and nurse, and you can still use a surrogate and nurse because they can give you medication, but to experience the full effect of pregnancy is just something a lot of people want to experience, and I'm glad that
Yeah.
I have had that opportunity.
Yeah, and I think again, it's people's choice. Like some people choose to have a surrogate when they actually can have a kid, and I think it's
Yeah.
their choice to be able to do it, and I respect it. And did so? What is So why Mexico? Is it because of cost or communication, or why would you suggest that? I'm just curious.
Oh, definitely cost.
Uh,
When we went to go have our 2 lit treatments, that was in Mexico in Tijuana. Now, that's just Brad's white blood cells infused into my forearm. The couple that was there,
that's called a
they
lit
were
treatment or lit
lit
LIT.
LIT treatment, lymphocyte
Okay.
immunization therapy. Yeah, they just
Mm.
take his white blood cells, infuse them into my forearm 2 times, and that helps with recurring pregnancy loss and implantation failure. And the couple that was there at this, QIR clinic in Tijuana, they said, "Well, we're going to" I don't remember what part of Mexico, but "We're going to this part of Mexico to go have, IVF, and this is, like, our hoorah last chance at trying. We're not gonna try again after this." And I said, "Well, why are you going there?" And she's like, "Well, it costs $3,000 as opposed to paying 15, $20,000 at our clinic."
Mm.
And so there's a huge difference in price if you're willing to travel,
Mhm.
and I had a great experience. When I went to Reynosa, I had a great experience. I have no, like, negative things to say.
Well, that's good to hear. Honestly, I've been to Tijuana once, and it was like when I was 15. It was to buy a bottle of tequila. So I think, some people are like, Tijuana, really?
Yeah, I mean, you have to be careful. We had
Yeah.
a private driver pick us up. That was all prearranged. There were hundreds, if not, well, there's thousands of women that have done the same exact thing that we did. And then that was just for like the treatment to lead to the pregnancy. That was not even a part of IVF. That's with the RI. And so the actual IVF was in Reynosa. And I had a great experience there too, as well. I mean, no issues.
Good.
Other than wishing that I would have had pesos, there was a breakdown in translation. He kept saying that I owed him a huge amount, like hundreds of dollars to travel. It was not even a mile. It's probably like a half a mile or whatever. So that's
Yeah.
my advice was if you're going to go do it, come prepared with some pesos. That way, if you do have to have some type of form of transportation, you can pay them in
Yeah.
pesos.
Yeah. It's a good tip. Who was the person in California that you contacted? And I know you've said it 1,000 times, but what is that called again? The
It's a
person that
reproductive immunologist. It's the
Okay.
Dr. Ellen Beer Center. He's actually dead, but it's Dr. Stricker.
Sorry.
That sounds
That's
so
just
bad.
I know.
He's
He's
actually
actually
dead.
dead, but
So, but his practice is the one that you will
okay,
go see.
got it.
Yeah, Dr. Stricker, and they're the ones who run elaborate labs. I'll just call it elaborate labs. All these labs that are gonna like immunology, blood clotting, things that I had never had run before, and that's what
Mhm.
ultimately gave me answers.
So you suggest that to do that first, or to try around IVF and then that?
No, I would suggest doing it when you're trying naturally. If you're struggling to get pregnant, that way you have those answers, and that's going to go with you, and you can still continue to see them. It takes 3
Mhm.
months to make an appointment with them, like, they're booked out that far in
Oh,
advance.
wow.
Yeah.
So what would classify as struggling? Like how many months in do you think it's like, okay, now we know you're struggling? Is it a year? Is it at like 8 months?
I wouldn't even wait a year, especially if age is a factor. If
Hmm.
age is a factor, I would schedule it immediately. Like if you've tried for a month or two and you're just like, I don't know, it's not working, then I would 100% see the Dr. Ellen Beer Center. There's more than just them in the US, but they are the ones that recommend the lit treatment, and I do think that that definitely makes a difference in for us getting pregnant along with many other couples in a group that I'm a part of. So, for me, I would do it immediately at an older age.
Mm,
Like I'm talking in 30 like 35 even. But now if you're in your 20s
yeah.
or, and as you approach even late 20s, some people may have a lower AMH level, like the amount of eggs they have. And so I would 100% like recommend seeing the RI on the front end, maybe 3 months if I was in my 20s still. And that's still a very short amount of time. But all you're paying for are answers. You're going to know, hey, this is all, and immunology doesn't change. Like it's there.
Hmm.
So a lot of this stuff, blood clotting factors, that stuff is not going to change. Natural killer cells, some other things, that stuff may change. And you could just redo those labs, but you'll at least be established with them. And they could easily run some more labs for you that for like if you saw them one time and then you said, okay, I'm going to try naturally now that I know the answers. And you tried naturally for 2 or 3 years and you still didn't, you weren't pregnant and then you wanted to move forward with IVF, you could revisit seeing them and it would be a whole lot easier the second time because they already have all your information. They might just need to update a few labs.
Got it. So go to them first and then try IVF and start checking off the other boxes.
Yeah,
If
or even have an IUI. Like an IUI, your fallopian tubes do have to be open for an IUI. So I would
Mhm.
recommend an IUI. That's
What does
around
IUI stand
$600.
for? What does
Interuterine
IUI mean?
insemination. It's where
Okay.
they take the sperm and infuse the sperm into the female's uterus.
Okay. That's the turkey baster? Is that what that is?
Yeah, the turkey baster, yeah. So it
Okay.
takes the swim out they don't have to swim through the acidic canal.
Got it. Got it. See, this is where I say, okay, we're giving the guys something else to be lazy about. I mean, come on.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
But that's
Yes.
okay. So, to kind of get on a more serious note then, is there a moment when it kinda hit you that it may not happen? And obviously, I mean, we know that there was obviously a happy ending to this, a beyond happy ending to this,
Yeah.
but was there a moment when you realized that you had to start digesting, that you may not be able to physically go through the pregnancy like you wanted to, this one?
Yes, we had our one of our son's friends from school, his mom had actually said, "I'll be your surrogate." And I I thought, "Okay, I would do that. I know her and we could have her be our surrogate." But I still deep down wanted to be able to carry this
Mhm.
pregnancy and was like, I know that my body is capable or feel like it is, but do I really know that? I don't know. And, Brad would say, when is enough enough? Like, when are you going to just say, hey, this is it? And I think that's something that you and I have talked about before. When are you going to say like, hey, when is enough enough?
Yeah.
And I would keep saying, like, "This is my last one." And then I would say, "Oh, I found out this. I'm gonna try this now." And so there was a time when I just said, "Okay, for this last transfer that we did, that if this doesn't work, this is it. And I have to just accept that." And that was a hard pill to swallow, just thinking that it may not work and I may not be able to get pregnant.
So the one that you had where you got pregnant with the twins, did you know that that was going to be your last one? That was your last hoorah before you're like, okay, I'm done. We've spent enough money. We've spent enough time. We need to start kind of conquering another mountain, so to speak.
Yes, so I said that about my 8th transfer. And then I found out that I needed the PRP treatment along with the other 2 things that we did, the lit treatment, which is good for 9 months. So the doctor said, "Well, a PRP treatment." I'm like, "What is that?" And he said, "Well, it helps with recurring pregnancy loss, implantation failure, endometriosis, and your lining." I was like, "Well, I have endometriosis." And he said, "Okay, well, you'll need to come here 5 days before." And I'm like, "That's not
Hmm.
possible." And I found out CNY Infertility does it for $300, and that's like cheap. So I went to CNY and I said, if this fails, there's a potential that I would go the same route that I'm doing this time, but not more than that. Like the ninth transfer and then maybe one more, 10 be it. Because at that point, I
Yeah.
would have literally done everything. The thing is it can be the embryo. And so that's what he told me that was a potential that the eighth transfer failed. It was a PGT tested good quality embryo. And so you're thinking, why is my body not accepting this? But it
Yeah.
might have not been my body. It might have been the embryo itself. And so adding in the PRP treatment and then 2 good quality embryos was the magic.
So do you want to tell the happy ending of this one then? So
Yes,
you got
absolutely. Yeah. So I did the transfer November 20th in Reynosa. And then I got back to my hotel. I went by myself this time because my son was in school and it was just going to be a lot less stress. Brad tends to be high stress. I know, right? And
Oh,
he's
yes.
worried about like crossing the border. And me, I'm just like, I trust the process. And and I look at the glasses half full. I'm like, it's gonna work. Everything's gonna be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I don't have my head on a swivel and I don't look like I have my state trooper hat on, blah blah blah. But I still am like mentally, this is gonna work. Everything's gonna be fine. I'm gonna be protected somehow. It's gonna
Yeah.
work. And so then I get back to the hotel, I relax. There's a saying to go eat like McDonald's fries, which I don't eat McDonald's fries. So I had Five Guys.
Yeah.
It's
They're
just a
mushy
thing.
and
Yeah, I
Five
know. So I
Guys is a
had
much better choice. Much better
Oh,
choice.
yes. Yeah, and then I had my soup, which also, like, you wanna have warming foods after. So I
Hmm.
had the,
But is that
chicken
like
pho
an
soup.
old wives' tale or is it scientifically proven?
Well, so the warming is good for the uterus, and even doctors, like medical doctors will say keeping your feet warm,
Hmm.
drinking warm, like room temperature water. And so scientifically, I don't know how much scientific, but there has to be some studies out there about the warming because the uterus needs to stay warm. Like I feel 100% certain that the embryo, and I was just talking to the embryos like they were already babies. Like mommy already loves you. You're gonna stick around. You're here for the long haul.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna be beautiful babies. We're gonna love you immensely. And
And I imagine it's good for your mental too to kind of
yeah,
do
have
that.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I got on the flight, sat beside a couple that had gone through IVF 20 something years ago. And the husband said to me, I think you are pregnant. And then they follow me on my Instagram account. And so when I did announce my pregnancy, they were like, congratulations. And I realized, and they said, we're the couple that sat beside you on the plane. I'm like, oh my
Aw,
gosh, this is so cool.
that
Yeah,
is
that was neat.
cool. Hmm.
Yeah. And so then 3 days later, I got my positive. 4 days later, it was confirmed. And the
Nice.
rest is history. It was just a great pregnancy.
So now you have twin girls. I can't
Yes.
imagine having one baby was rough enough. I can't imagine having two infants at the same time. So hats off to you. That's a whole other mountain to climb.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a challenge some days, but they slept good last night and they slept good the night before. I mean, good as in they're waking up every like 3.5 hours or so, and I'll take
Mm-hmm.
that as opposed to the cluster feeding and they're up every hour. That can
Yeah.
wear me out mentally.
Yeah, I can't imagine just one if they were off schedule and they were up at different times. Oof. Mm.
Yeah, I tandem feed them. So if one wakes up, I'm waking the other one up and
Oh.
I'm gonna tandem feed them together.
Oh, I didn't know that's how you did that. So that's how you kind of train them to stay on the same schedule.
I lay them on the nursing pillow and I sit in the middle of the nursing pillow
Mm-hmm.
with my legs, lean them against me, and then I lay my body on the nursing pillow. I did a video about this. And then I hug it to my body, and then I go sit in the recliner. I can pick them up by myself, like both with on the nursing pillow, and then I latch one at a time.
Well, so to then kind of go on to your social platforms, I feel most women, at least it used to be this way, wouldn't talk about infertility issues or losing a baby or, especially if it's, get into different terms of pregnancies and stuff like that. But I feel like you've kind of turned something into that's a tragedy. I mean, and I mean like a it is traumatic to have to go through that stuff and that uncertainty. And I feel
Yeah.
like you turned that into a social platform in a positive way, being very informative about, everything that you've been through. Why and how do you think you were able to kind of break that barrier? Because I still feel like it's still a very tight-lipped subject with a lot of people. They don't want to talk about it and talk about their journeys and stuff, but you've turned it into a very positive platform and you have a very good followership on your social media. Like, I don't even know all the platforms that you're on. I kind of suck at it, even though I do this podcast thing. But, yeah,
No,
what's
you're
that? What's
doing
that
great.
journey? What was that like?
So I said I'm going to raise awareness about my infertility journey because hopefully it will help someone else that's struggling to know that there might not always be a positive outcome. Because here I am 7 years later, or at the time, 5 years later, 6 years later. And now, 7 years later, there might not be that positive outcome. And that's okay. Give yourself grace. And so I initially started sharing on TikTok and then started sharing on Facebook. I was very open about sharing on TikTok because I didn't really know anyone on TikTok. So it's a little bit harder to share that same information on Facebook because that's more there was more friends and family that was on there, and how are they going to
Yeah.
judge me? And then
Yeah, that's a
my
weird
Q-dang got
thing.
busted.
Like, that's a weird thing that, like, and I feel like it is like that on social media. We're more apt to share with strangers because we're not so worried about their judgment. It's like, well, we can block you out. It doesn't matter. But people that we know, it's like, what are you going to say? You're going to judge this.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I started sharing on my Facebook and my Instagram because they're tied together. So when I share on one, it shares on the other. And then the more that I did it, it actually helped me. And so I tell people, ladies that are struggling with infertility, start sharing
Yeah.
about it. Open up create something on social media about it because it is healing. Because the more you talk about something, the easier it gets to go through it.
Yeah, it lessens, like, it's not as much of a weapon if you talk about it. If you don't,
Yeah. It's like bottled up and just like PTSD for cops or troopers or whatever, The more you talk about it, the easier it is for me, at least.
So what would you, somebody that's dealing with infertility and stuff like that, obviously I would suggest following you on your social media platforms because you give a lot of information out there, stuff that I wish that I had known when I first had my kid, a freaking decade ago. But so what are your different platforms if you want to give those out real quick? And I'll see if I can't put a link in my Instagram and stuff like that. But I don't, honestly, I'm still new to this podcast stuff, so I don't know how to do all the links.
No worries. You're good. So my Instagram is C Cersei. It's still my maiden name. It's C and then Cersei. That is actually one of our daughter's names, the twins, Searcy. And then G is in George 21. And the reason that it's that is because my state trooper badge number was G George 21. And so it dates back to my state trooper days. That's how old my Instagram is. Yeah. And then my Facebook is Cindy Cersei. Again, Searcy. And then Adams. My TikTok, Adams Fertility Journey.
Yeah, I'm still new to that TikTok thing. I got on there just so I could see what it was. I'm like, woo, this looks too young for me. So good for you for doing it. Because I don't even understand half that stuff. I'm like,
Brad actually got me started on TikTok, believe it or not.
No.
Yes.
I mean, I know how old he is, but sometimes he acts like he's 15 to 20 years older than he is.
Yeah.
In a good way.
I know. Yeah. So he got me started on TikTok just watching as a watcher.
Okay.
And then I decided, you know what? I'm just going to focus my social media strictly on my fertility journey and just kind of cut out all the other. And so that is kind of how it got started. And now he refuses to be on my TikTok, but he was at first, he would do a little bit on there, but now he's like, no, I don't want it at all.
So when did you figure out that it kind of took off? Like when you were first probably just doing it to do it, and then all of a sudden you realize oh, hey, maybe this is going somewhere. When did you realize that?
Well, the more that I shared about my IVF journey, I had videos go viral, 1 million views and 900,000 views and stuff like that. And so when I saw that happening, I said, I think I'm on to something. I could definitely see myself doing this for the long haul. And so that is... the more you share, obviously, the more following that there's people that are going to know, like, and trust you. It's just the way that it is. And then they share it, they favorite it, they comment. And the more that happens, the more you're like, and you have people that follow you and they'll follow me on all my socials. And they're like, I just love your content. Please keep sharing. You've given me so much hope. And so I've had so many women say, or women even reach out and say that they did the same thing that I did as far as going to Reynosa, Mexico and getting pregnant the way that I did. And now there's 2 ladies that are right now pregnant, the same thing that I did because they heard my story.
It's cool. I mean, to actually see the results of the influence and the information.
Yeah. And who knows the others that have done stuff and haven't reached out. Some people are silent watchers.
So with social media, and I'm curious about this in general, especially after you get, because I'm very private with a lot of my social media stuff. Like, I'm not going to be your friend on social media unless I'm your friend in real life, with the exception of the Half Serious Instagram account, of course, but
Yeah.
that is open. It's just there's so much negativity out there. So, was there some negative aspects of that maybe somebody that's going to put their stuff out there should preemptively know about? Maybe something that you've battled.
Yes, you have to have thick skin. People are going to be negative no matter what you do or say on there. Like when I go live a lot with the twins, I'm nursing them or whatever, and I'm covered and stuff, and people will say some not nice things, and you just have to be prepared to, like, I go state trooper on them. The trooper hat comes on, and there's a lot of people that feel like, that have followed me enough that know me on there in the sense of social media, and they'll say, like, "She's about to flip a switch," and they've all seen it. And so, for my advice is, if you're going to share, be prepared to have thick skin, or be able to just shut it off, block them, and not let it bother you. Because I would be lying if I said there's times it doesn't bother me, some of the things that
Mhm.
people say. Yeah, at the end of the day, some of them are trolls. Some of them are just miserable in their own lives. And so, in order to try to make themselves feel better, they try to tear you down. And that's the way a lot of times that I try to compartmentalize it in my mind. They're just miserable.
Mhm.
So, they're trying to justify, make themselves feel better. So, maybe that
Yeah.
is something that my advice for someone is, just think that they're miserable and they're trying to make you feel like they feel.
Yeah, I agree. Some of the biggest keyboard warriors out there are the ones that are just really upset and sad in their own lives, and they don't know how to confront those problems up front or in person, or they're too cowardice to do so in person. So they're just gonna tick 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 right across that keyboard instead, which
Yeah,
I
there
don't
was
get.
this one girl that really went off and said just some hateful things about the fact that I was even able to get pregnant. And I'm like, "Excuse me, who are you?" And I just said, "You know nothing about me. The audacity of you. 7 years." I think I even replied with the videos. I will say, like, "You don't know me. How the audacity of you to say something when you know nothing about the struggles that I've went through."
Yeah,
Mm. So,
yeah.
but,
Just give
I
it a
mean, it
minute.
was yeah, it was really it was some pretty hateful stuff, like venturing on, "I can't believe that you were even allowed to carry those babies," type. I mean, some
Mm,
so you're gonna have that because, like you said, keyboard warriors, and some people, it may be trolls, some people, it's real people that are miserable, and you just have to be able to, like, say, compartmentalize it and not worry about it, and at times it will get to you, and if it does, you may have to shut that off, block them. If it bothers you too much, then, obviously don't share. For me, it doesn't. I just, I will reply with a video
mhm.
and just shut them down.
Yeah, well,
That
I think
helps
that's
me.
also the bit of law enforcement too, because you're used to people just talking, shit
Yeah.
all the time to you out in calls and stuff. And it's like, okay, sir, well, I still need your ID, like, cool, you can think of what you want to think of me. It is a free country, but I still need to do these things.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Having that background, that type A background.
Well, is there anything that you kind of want to say that I haven't covered? Because I am not perfect by this in any means.
No, I think you've covered it. I just close with, if you're struggling, get the help from the reproductive immunologist. Don't give up just because you feel like you have unexplained infertility. There is a lot of help out there. And if you need, this is something I've not talked about enough, because for me, I didn't need it. Counseling. If a person
Yeah.
needs counseling, seek out that help, because it is something that will really take a toll on you. For me, my counseling was my social media, being able to talk about it to everybody, and talking about it helps. So if you can't do that same thing, then maybe seeing a counselor is a route that you could go, because it's not an easy path to go down, and it does make you feel alone and like the doors are closing in, and the why me. That's my advice.
Well, I would like to first off thank you for coming on.
Thank
And
you for having me, Tess.
anytime. And secondly, congrats. And I don't even mean congrats on having your twin girls who are both beautiful, and I can't wait to actually meet them in person because I haven't yet. But also
Thanks.
just congrats on going through this journey and just being like, knowing where your stopping points are, knowing what your goals are, and then also just already knowing, okay, well, at some point we have to move on and change this narrative into something else, or maybe take a different path for it. Because I feel like you definitely had the resilience to go through that stuff, whereas a lot of people wouldn't have.
Yeah.
Because it's a hard way to go for a lot of people. So
It is. It's an unfair diagnosis to have the word infertility struck upon you.
yeah, I don't think anybody realizes that or even thinks about it until they are like in their 30s probably, and that's when people
Yeah.
or women are start to think, oh, hey, is this something that is not going to be possible? So
Right.
congratulations on a positive
Thank you.
outcome and your positive influence on that community. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thanks for having me.
anytime.
Seriously.
Yeah, no, thanks for coming on. I'll talk to you soon because I'm sure we're gonna have a cookout or something at some point, hopefully.